In this tutorial, I'll show you how to set up forms in Vivaldi. So we'll start by logging in. And once we've landed on the admin page, you can see that we've already created a couple of forms, but we'll walk through creating some more. So the first thing you'll do is either select the Create a Form option here, or from the menu, use the New Form Wizard. In the New Form Wizard, we're going to create a form, Orders, and the base table is the table that contains the records for these forms. The primary key here is whatever the unique identifier is that you're going to use. And then you can create permissions automatically for the super admin to access this particular form, as well as create a menu item so that it will show up here at the top. You do have the option to create both a detail and tabular form, just a table form, or just a detail form. In this case, we'll create both. And in the background, Vivaldi's created a new form for the orders for tables and details. So we'll start with the tabular form to design it. You can access this at any time just from Manage Forms, by the way, and then navigating to design whatever form it is you want. So a couple things here. The first is that we've got the form properties. So this is the orders form. It's already allowed us to edit, insert, and delete. So at a form level, you can control these things, and at a role level. The base table is the table, again, for inserts, edits, and deletes that is used. But down here, the form SQL does not have to be just the table. It could be a view. It could be an SQL query that you've written in here. And so that's what we're going to do right now, is that in the database, we happen to have a couple of views that we'll use. So here there's a VW_order. So we're going to use that as the record source when the user sees these in the table itself. And so that's just VW_order. And I can click validate here just to make sure that I've got data coming back. So 327 rows, but it's a handy way just to make sure everything's going okay. Now the next part here is that it allows you to assign a detail form. So from a table, when you click edit, when you click new, or you click view, it's going to take you to the detail form. So we'll design that one in a minute. There's also header and footer. That can be HTML, by the way, and it may just be something that you want to alert your users to. You can style this any way you want, but with that, you've got control over that form as it renders the header and the footer. The form GUID here is used for a couple things. If you're going to do like a direct link to one of your forms, that's done by, it's a URL parameter, so that's why the form GUID is shown here, so you can copy it if you need to. There's a couple table options as well. We can control whether the user is allowed to export it to PDF, Excel, search the table results, click refresh on the table, and that will do a query back to the database, as well as whether or not you want to say that, say, we'll limit each page of the table to 20 rows. So I'll save this. And then the next thing we want to do is actually start to add some items to this form. So you can see here it automatically added that primary key for us, and it's hidden, which is typically going to be the case, but you can always unhide it if you want your users to see that. So we'll click New. Maybe the first thing I want is to be the order date. So I can select order date here, and this is going to be a date field. I can add classes to each particular field. We'll get to the click events in a moment here. But with the table, there's some specific things, such as the order it displays in the table. So I want this to be the first row. I also want to sort by this. So I'm going to sort by it in descending order. So that means that the newest orders will come first. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to add one more. And in this case, let's make it the customer name. And if you'll recall, we did use the view that's already joined customer name and the customer table to orders. So this is a text field. I'll have this be the second column, and we'll make it also order by, but we'll just make it order ascending. So at this point, we'll just keep it at this, and You can see it's added those with a caption here. On tabular forms, you also have the option to drag and drop the columns if you want to reorder them in there. So you can drag and drop them. That's not available for detail forms, but it does simplify things for the tabular form order of items in the display. Say I want to be able to drill from this order form to the customer detail. I can go back and edit this particular field. And this click event wizard here is what we're going to choose. And I want to use the customer number. And so I'm going to need to add that to my table, even though it might be hidden. And then I'm also going to use the customer detail as the target form, and customer number is what's on the target form. So once we do this, I can save this. I can also add I want to have this be a hyperlink, so I'm going to add this class table link, and all that does is just make it underline here. And like I said, because we're going to drill using the customer number, I do need to make that present in the table itself. So add customer number here, even though it's going to be hidden on this particular table. So we'll just hide it, and we'll make it one of the last items here on the table. So we'll save that. And now when we hit refresh, and we can also expand this if you want to see an expanded preview. So now you can see we've got the underlining on customer name, and when I click on it, it actually will drill to the form I told it to. And it's filtered it down to Alpha Cognac, that customer. So that's a way that without any coding you can basically do drill across between tables to tables or tables to forms, and so that's an easy way to go. So now let's go look at a detail form. So in this case, I'm already in the customer form. You can see that the layout allows for multiple items on a single row, and we've got this required indicator here. So let's take a look at how we did that. If you have access to the form design wizard, this little design page option will be on any page. And we can pop over here now, and I can see the items that are on this form. So I've got my customer, and you'll notice here the display order is rows and columns. So that's a bit different than the tabular form. So when I click edit here for this, the things I'm going to be focused on a bit more are things like the display type, because I actually have options around how I show things like buttons or checkboxes, emails even. So there's validation in those. But now the more important thing here is the detail form settings. So this is where you get to specify the row on the form and the column, as well as the size of the caption and the size of the column itself. This is all responsive, so if it's on a mobile device, this is going to take up 56% of the pop-up as an example. You can also incorporate collapse panels into your forms. That's what these are right here. So it's just a text name, and that's what will show up here, and you want to make sure all of your controls share that same name for that panel. But you can require a field. You can lock it if you want it to just be read-only to display. So let's take a look at a couple of their options that we have. If we go to create a new item here, I might want to use country as an example. So in this case, I want to make sure to control the user's inputs in this. And so I've got a couple options on how to do that. The display type, I could either do a drop down where I manually enter in the key and text values the user is going to see, and that would be comma separated. But in this case, what I really want to do is a drop down here that's going to go look at another table in the database to grab those values. So with this, now that I've got that option, there's this list source, and here's where I'm going to use a wizard again to choose country, the table country, and the primary key or the key value is just an ID, and then country name is what I want users to see. So I can click apply there, and for this one we'll make this the fifth column, and I can set the width on this, and we'll save it. And now we can take a look at the preview, and you can see country shows up, and I've got my values, and behind the scenes it's going to save the ID, not the text value, but I didn't have to write any special queries here for that to happen. So it's just going to be available on the form for the user. With each field, you have other options like the CSS class. So there's a customer.css file that you have control over, same with a customer.js file, and an HTML header PHP file, so those won't get overwritten during an upgrade. And in there you could put special classes that you might want to use on particular fields to really make them stand out or behave a certain way. You can also specify a default value. So as an example, if I wanted the default value to always be CO, I can do that, and then when a new record is added, it will be CO. Here we have customer. If you'll recall, we used the new form wizard to create the orders form, and so by refreshing, you see that now. So if we take a look just to see our detail form for customers, you can see that I have access to add new records. I can export this list here. We just put customer name, but I can edit or delete. If I click new, I've got my new form here. I defaulted the state to Colorado as we wanted it to. It's got the required fields that will validate. But behind the scenes, Vivaldi does all of the hard work in terms of the actual writing to the database for a new record, deleting, and editing. All you had to do was basically go through the process we just walked through, and it will take care of everything else when it comes to updating the database. They can save and close, and the table will refresh automatically in the background, and then you can search and find that particular record you just inserted. That concludes the designing forms in Vivaldi.